How are we doing? Are we ready? Just because the description says it is a poetry reading does not mean that you cannot have fun, that you cannot put your hands together. Even if you do not like the poems that you hear, fake it. Those of us who stand in front of you will appreciate it, and there'll be the one thing they think about for days and days to come. So remember that. Welcome to Twisted River Poetry. I'm Todd Cirillo, and thank you so much to Izzy and Louie. Thank you so much for having us. It is a relatively new series, and but right now it feels just right. I like that. So we will take a break for the summertime so we can all sit and take off and do all of our fun things, and there is no better way to close out than with the three individuals that we have this evening. If you haven't signed up for open mic, we do encourage you to do that. And wow, you are a good-looking bunch. I just realized that. I like that. I like that. There's no insincere compliment. So, for Twisted River Poetry, you know, I came across this quote by William S. Burroughs. "Artists, to my mind, are the real architects of change, and not the political legislators who implement change after the fact." What do you think about that quote? I don't agree with William about that at all. He has another quote that says, "Poetry is made up of mistakes and broken things." I like that one much better than that from old William, whose house I once had the pleasure of hanging out in Lawrence, Kansas, on a very weird, extended drinking and poetry fest. But tonight, I think we have the best of the best, and there honestly could not be a night to look forward to more than this one regarding poetry and drinking, and hopefully some cuss words in there too. We're going to begin with Meghan Sullivan. Now I'll read you what she sent to me. Oh yes, oh yes. Yes. Meghan Sullivan is a poet, teacher, Long Islander, and lover.
Oh yeah.
That's right.
That's me.
Oh, Jesus Christ, yeah. Wow, I'll start the open mic section with a couple of poems. I was going to read a couple of poems. Should I wait for the open mic, or I'll just go right into it?
Read some poems.
Okay, let's do that. Let's start with that. I forgot, because I'm in awe of all of you sitting here right now. So we'll start, and then we'll go right into the amazing Meghan. We'll start with a couple poems. Useful poetry. I read the poet's manuscript and saw this line: waiting for something, hoping for anything. It is the type of brilliant phrase that people would read on buses and trains if people still used buses and trains. But I'm confident it will be read in airports by people going to see other people, or those who are getting away from everyone. It will have significance during breakups and given as gifts to impress. It will be quoted at weddings and funerals. Lines will be stolen by those who call themselves poets. It will be opened over and over again and again, and it will be opened only once and placed on a shelf with other books with crisp spines and unstained pages. Don't take it personally. Pages will also get covered in gin and tonics, baby food, spaghetti sauce, birthday cake, dark chocolate, red wine, and white, and Jaeger bombs. Other times, your book will solve problems, such as an unbalanced pool table or crooked washing machine. don't take that part personally either. Just remember, poetry is supposed to be useful. Two other quick ones. Yeah, two other quick ones. Magnolias, on top of him, he focuses on her quick breaths, the rhythm of her body, hands tightening, the side to side of her hip bones, hair falling off the shoulders, curve of the ribs holding her enthusiastic heart, eyes lowered to his. It is spring. The jasmine are in bloom outside, along with the magnolias she loves so. With a hushed voice, she tells him, I like that. He kisses the inside of her left wrist, knowing every spring he has now will feel like her. Yeah. One last one. Luckenbach, Texas. Anyone ever been there? Anyone know the song? All right. If you don't know the song, look it up after this. Luckenbach, Texas. I have reached the point of becoming a goddamn country music cliche. I sit alone in a dirty bar in ripped jeans, trucker hat, light wallet, surrounded by old, torn posters. Faded chalkboard, blinking half neons, a dusty bottle of root beer schnapps not touched since '78, and busted dreams, drinking cheap beer and strong shots, listening to Waylon Jennings sing about Willie and the boys. And I know all the words. These kind of situations make a person reflective. I realize my life contains most of the classic elements, wrecked trucks by loves long lost, stranded in the rain, without bus fare and no way home. Thrown in jail 3 times for things I was completely guilty of. Been cheated out of my money and my heart, left for other men. And if I'm being honest, the occasional woman too. Had all the light bulbs in my house methodically busted out one by one by one. Had a shotgun pointed in my face, and when she said it was loaded, I took her word for it. But I don't ride horses, wear a giant bucking bronco belt buckle. I don't even own a dog. Yet here I sit at the far end of the bar with an open tab, living it up. Right in the next chorus, just me, Waylon, Willie, and the boys. Yeah. Now, Meghan Sullivan is a poet, teacher, Long Islander, and lover. That's right, good. You should applaud yourself. You deserve it. Currently living and working in New Orleans. She is the runner-up for the 2022 Andrea-Saunders Gereighty Award, right?
It doesn't matter.
Well, it does, because really runner-up just means somebody fucked up. Right? Yeah. And she's an associate editor for Bayou Magazine. She's pursuing her MFA in poetry, in creative writing workshop at the University of New Orleans. You can find her work in Ellipsis, Peauxdunque Review, and more. Now, that's what she would like you to know about her. What I would like you to know about her is that the first time I met her, she had a magnificent smile and seemed genuinely happy to be exactly where she was, which was at Splice. So, we said hello. The second time I met her, she had these amazing golden shoes. And now she's here to amaze you. Give it up for Meghan Sullivan.
Unfortunately, I'm not wearing my golden shoes tonight. Okay, this is what I'm gonna do. Hey y'all. Hey Megan. Hey, I'm Megan. Thank you, Todd, for having us, and Uli and your wife. Thank you for having us. I'm excited to be here to read some poems for y'all. Okay, so the first poem that I'm going to read, does anyone here have a baby? Or have you ever had a baby? You do have a baby? Oh, okay. I don't have my own baby, but I'm a nanny, so I'm around a lot of babies a lot of the time. And one of the babies that I'm with, Declan, he recently just learned how to like work the remote, and so he'll press a button and like get really excited about the cause and effect of like him pressing something and the TV channel changing, which is really, really beautiful to observe. So that's what kind of incited the idea for this poem, Changing the Channel. I've been doing these poems that are kind of like fake golden shovels. So, okay, the book, I'll love you forever, I'll like you for always, as long as I'm living, my baby will be, yes, my people, you know what you're talking about. Okay, the grown-up kid on the toilet, you know. Oh, yeah, I could like cry thinking about it. So, this poem, the last line to each, or the last word to each line spells out, I'll love you forever, I'll like you for always, as long as I'm living, my baby will be. It's called Changing the Channel. The baby keeps putting things in his mouth. Toy giraffe who squeaks limply, I get it. I'll change the channel, fine. Harahan's 6-year-old found in mother's garbage can. That's the way love treats a woman sometimes. Compelled to kiss greatness, should she only ditch the adjunct, your spirit is too true. And my fear is acute. The pug is licking the high chair, tongue out forever, yearning for the next scrap. Home is where the swamp is, boasts my graphic tee, but I'll never be as reptilian as you, mulling for this, mulling for that. The assurance that nettle is like nature's icy hot. Home is the pit in my molar gums, some faux carnitas nest there, you know, the veggie protein stuff. Wild hogs really debase the family vision that I casted for us. Maybe I could spend the summer learning about the GDP or the present. I'm always trying to orient myself towards goals other than you. We'd have kids, sure, but never be as brazen as couples who curate a list of gender amorphous baby names. Our love is long and conditional. You've been on public radio at least once. I have the picture and imagine myself caged behind the microphone's contact plate and mesh stuck in the wiry coil, transferring your vibrations, and I'm shouting to the host, ask her the question, ask her the question. Living for another is your greatness stifled, your worms neatly canned. This summer, I'm gonna pursue my interests. Watching rotisserie chickens and eating talk shows. I'm an untethered pug. And the baby keeps changing the channel. Jerry Springer, talk show host and mediator, dead at 79. I imagine you'll lament, mediated is a strong word. While I pray for his family and our baby Perry, who will never, ever be. My next poem, okay, who's ever gone through a breakup? Okay. My next poem's called Widowed, and my roommate keeps telling me and my roommate are going through a breakup at the same time, and she keeps telling me, like, we're widows, which is maybe problematic, but that's what gave me the idea for this poem. It's called Widowed. Selby keeps reminding me we're widows, we're widows. The arachnid analogies hatch me as the beneficiary to your life insurance policy. And your evaporation has me nostalgic and delusional. The crack in my iPad screen is getting orbish now, like the kind a tour guide might point out on Marie Laveau's gallery. This web of ours is tangled. Wily, grisly, and omnipresent, I was hoping that keeping the right side of my bed populated would act as evidence of my being alive. I take in pilgrims, and the accoutrement on my walls offers ample material for their manipulation named intrigue, the crave and inevitable dissolution. Is anyone here a contractor? Really, is anyone here? Anyone here? A contractor that can check on the integrity of this structure? There's pantry moss in my hair, a heap of abandoned easy oats, and my pores are like the achenes on a strawberry. Little aphids are emerging out of them and attempting to redecorate. Please redecorate, redecorate, redecorate. When I'm home alone, I turn on all the lights, swing open the front door, and sing for the termites. Somewhere over the rainbow. Your evaporation has me grisly and desperate. There is someone I love north of here, but I still have other ways of being.
Yeah.
Contractor, we'll have to talk business after the show.
Talk business with poets.
No business here. Okay, I'll take my business elsewhere. Okay, the next poem I have two more. The next poem I have is called Serenity Parsed. Okay, the Serenity Prayer. We know it, right? God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, the wisdom to know the difference. I saw like a meme that was like, fuck, marry, kill, serenity, courage, wisdom. Maybe think about that as I'm reading. I would fuck courage is like the only one that I'm sure of. I'm not sure. It's the only one. I'm not sure about the other two. But yeah, so the last, another like faux golden shovel, the last line, or the last word of each of these lines is, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. There are three strangers that I'm gonna love for my whole life. Mom and Dad, you, and God. Gee, I actually love imagination. Me as a chubby secretary getting plugged by you, Hugh Grant. Admittedly, I'm not into sci-fi and find it difficult to speak sentences that aren't adjacent to me, but meet me where I'm at. Isn't it alien? The way you have no interest in counting the wiry hairs on my scalp. Didn't your mind doctor tell you about menial tasks? Wrote the serenity that they seem to evoke, and the car windows, you better keep them rolled up when I toot. Control as a synonym for care. I'm more the gog than hug of a bear, and it's hard to accept that choices like tying your shoelaces to mine have consequences. The gag, untie the pair. See if either party still stands. If, when left alone, I imagine myself to the tracks. Things as able to kill as trains need supervision, and that's why it weirds me out. The way I was left to roam in malls, I'm an unleashed child. Grown to a kink of handcuffs. You see, I cannot detach from the key. The two morally ambiguous locks that I will resent for my whole life, us and change.
Yeah.
My last poem is called Swallowing Stop Signs. So I've been given the advice by a mind doctor that when you're having spiraling thoughts, you could picture a stop sign. So try that. Yeah, try it tomorrow. See if it works. It doesn't. So it's called Swallowing Stop Signs. I don't think I have anything else to say about that. Okay. It's hot. Okay. In here, y'all. Okay. I've been seeing stop signs in the strangest places. The dry soil of my dying pothos, the pixels of the baby monitor, the Parmesan atop my 3-day spaghetti. A group of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 runners out before 7. And on a Saturday? I'm only telling you this to assert my industriousness. I spend the better part of the day wondering if you're awake. I used to have the same curiosity about favorite celebrities, Frankie Muniz or Ashley Simpson, that somehow our having the same moon warranted a knowing of their clocks. The first third of my journal to keep me organized is dedicated to 4 square charts. What good happens if we end it, what bad happens, what good happens if we don't, what bad happens. The second is now. The courage to change the things I can yielded. Being with you meant swallowing red octagons, stop signs, whole stop signs. Now is the part where I'm brave enough. Now is the part where I'm brave. Brave enough to make decisions that reflect the reality of my gut health. And the final third, those journal pages I keep for the day when I can sleep past 9. When I can redirect my customary humor and pathos into the situation. Thought for the day. I'm thinking regretful, or of that flower tattoo on her tricep. Stop! Consider watering plants or yourself. That's it for me.
How beautiful was that for Meghan?
Yeah.
That was wonderful. I liked it.
I liked it too.
So an important public service announcement is that there is beer in the fridge for free. No?
No.
Water. There's water in there. Todd needs to get beer, but there's water in there. So, you know, take care of yourselves, take care of someone else, give someone a free bottle of water. That'll make them feel good. Next up. She's from Kansas.
Yeah.
How many people here have been to Kansas?
Yeah.
Such a
Wow.
yeah, it's a weird place.
Good amount.
Leavenworth.
Fort Leavenworth, exactly.
Yeah.
Wow.
Me too.
So, Linzi Garcia
Kindergarten.
loves to be pleasantly surprised and invites you to tell her something she's never heard before. Take that as a challenge, writers. She tries her best to find art in everything, every day, and write poems about it, which you can read in her 2 books, Thank You and While Away. If you need someone to be enthusiastic and optimistic to a fault, she is your girl. Again, she lives in Kansas, where she's the poetry editor and publicist for Meadowlark Press, a very good press. A proposal writer for a company that cleans up the world. She's a board member of an arts nonprofit and a bartender. Now, again, what she would like you to know, I like the bartender part. In fact, Linzi and I met in the Bombay Club here. Great happy hour, the Bombay Club. And before I even got to the bottom of my glass, I knew she was an extraordinary human being in both words and actions. And she has free stuff to give to you tonight. Which, of course, the only thing better than free stuff to poets is somebody saying, great poem, man. She also has her books here. So buy some of hers, because she would buy yours. I guarantee that. All the way from the land of Oz, Linzi Garcia.
Okay, she's right. I do have 3 things for you. I I used to read to a lot of old people, and they couldn't hear very well, so they liked to read along.
What?
So these are some read-along versions of what I'll be reading tonight for you to take home with you.
Talking about.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thanks, Todd. Look at the rest of them. So thank you all for being here. My gosh, you're the reason we get to do these things. We'll write and, you know, read to each other, but if other people want to listen, that's such a bonus. Okay, I'm probably gonna do what Megan did. We're redecorating, Todd. All right, okay, perfect, love it. Thank you for the water. All right, so I'm Linzi Garcia. That's Linzi with a Z for your memory's sake. These are 2 books that I have available. Thank you. And While Away, that's my hand. I always like to start my set. Oh, I'm gonna need one of those chapbooks back. Thanks. So I can read to you. But I like to start my set with somebody else's poem. Because if other people didn't do this, I wouldn't do this. So I just really appreciate the other poets out there who encourage me to keep doing poetry. So I'm going to read to you from Kisses from a Straight Razor by our fearless leader, Todd Cirillo. And Todd and I were recently talking about how a lot of those shiny moments that inspire us to write are sometimes not very happy shiny moments, but instead some troubling times. So this is the last poem in his book, called Goodbye Song. I don't want to write a poem about you, but I will. And it will sound like David Bowie's final song. Audiences will clap and compliment, tell me they love hearing it, and it will make me remember how much I hated writing it. Thanks, Todd.
Yeah.
So the poems I have for you tonight are from both of these books, as well as a lot of new poems, mostly new poems. So I hope to have my next book out in February for my birthday, so keep an eye on that. I called it Taking It All In because I think that's the theme of my life right now. And I think that's what we do with poetry, is those moments that we can really genuinely take it all in and write about it are the best moments. So, without further ado, recently a fortune cookie told me that my eyes will soon be opened to a world full of beauty, charm, and adventure. And here I am in New Orleans, all the way from Kansas. So, fortune cookies do come true. All right, we're gonna start with When the City Poets Come to Town, because I live in rural Kansas. The city poets arrive unannounced, hole up in my small town rural house, seek something like rest for a night before another long drive. They live on the road, and I wonder how long it's been since their last home-cooked meal. I make coffee, biscuits, gravy, eggs the way each likes. The poets spin tales of crossroads and devils, of candy mountains and women, of all the books written between gas stations. The poets refuse beds and use only their blankets on my wooden floor. Poets don't turn the lights out when they sleep, nor say goodbye before they leave.
Yeah.
If any of you ever come to Kansas and need a place to crash, I got you and I'll cook for you. So I've lived in a few places in Kansas. I'm originally from Colorado, and so everybody thinks I'm fucking crazy for loving Kansas as much as I do. So there are different types of Kansas. So this next poem, The Earliest Bar to Open in LFK. LFK is Lawrence fucking Kansas, which is probably the most popular place. And I don't like it that much. But you can tell where you are in Kansas based on how you apply the word fucking in the middle of the name. So you go Lawrence fucking Kansas, and it's kind of charged. You go Salina fucking Kansas, and you're like, oh God, nobody wants to be there. So this is the earliest bar open in Lawrence fucking Kansas. Sunrise drinking stopped feeling secretive and dirty years ago. Comfortable behind bar lights, he swallows his sins with the best whiskey available, which isn't great, but it's better than the other tastes in his mouth. He drinks alone. A fucking shame, he thinks. Breathing deep, he likes the bar smell. This place less stale with the AC running. No such thing as spring in Louisiana. I changed that for you guys. Behind the bar, books, records, a bartender, all untouched. Everything's thirsty for company.
Yeah.
As Todd mentioned, William S. Burroughs lived in Lawrence, Kansas, and I used to drive past his house every day, and I would hang out in the library a lot too, so it's a combination of those thoughts. On the corner of Kentucky and 7th, I watch cars turn the wrong way down the one-way from my perch. This glass box of a library that lurches over the street. Burroughs never stepped foot in this library, the library that swallowed his library. But I still think he'd like this view, and talking shit on all the tourists going the wrong way down the one-way.
Yeah.
I had this really wonderful opportunity to go to a Walt Whitman conference in England, of all places. And Don Scher was the keynote speaker, who used to be the editor for Poetry Magazine. So this is a poem about that. A good hater. Don Scher told a room full of Whitman scholars Whitman was a good hater. And I wonder what Whitman would hate about us gathering in England, celebrating his life, how his legacy changed us. Would he hate how everything here belongs to someone? How we discuss him indoors? Pick apart his handwriting, his use of dashes, his doodle of sperm? Would he hate how we quote him when he himself said quoting is a thing that gets to be a disease? Would he hate how we stay to listen until the end, even when we don't understand, even when we don't want to?
Yeah.
We love Walt Whitman. This is a found poem from, wow, now I'm blanking on the name of it. It's a found poem. Switching gears. Wanted. Dear most wanted guy, ruddy, white, clean cut. You walk along to work, auto, body, muscular. I saw your picture posted. Wanted 180 pounds of scar and tattoo. Wanted to read all of you.
Yeah.
This next one is called When You Propose. I recently broke up with my fiance. So, yeah, widow! But I wrote this actually way before then, but it seems to hit differently these days. When you propose, I ask that you stand on your tiptoes and dangle that rock in front of me like a dead rabbit in front of a hungry wolf. When you propose, I ask that you do it on a Tuesday during happy hour and buy me 3 drinks and 7 songs first. When you propose, I ask that you make a grand announcement and make everyone wish they were us for the night. When you propose, I ask that you do it just like he did. I might say yes this time.
Yeah.
The next one is a sad one, so brace yourselves. This is when things start going downhill, you know. They propose, and things go downhill. Lo and behold, you're in New Orleans.
It happens.
Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. They argue until he pukes. He slumps over the toilet bowl, and her sharpness softens. He heaves while she gathers water and juice to rinse his mouth, a dampened towel to lay across his back. It's the 3rd time he's puked that week, so they're well rehearsed. She holds him from behind, tries to make a joke. He cries. When you only have memories, I want them to be good ones. They understand their time together will end. Nothing left. They clean their mouths, crawl into bed, hold one another. This next one is Spew, which I think is the first brave thing I ever wrote. Little 22-year-old Lindsay just trying to figure out what the hell she wanted. So, here's me being brave. I want to say what's on my mind, but no, that what's on my mind is grungy and raw and kind of smells like a flower shop with a hint of urine. I want to know I have the power to hurt people, and hurt everyone a little bit for a little second, like a pine needle in the ass or a too hard high five. I want to not live in a limbo of professionalism and agony artistics. I want to create and create and create and fuck and create and drink too much coffee and get sweaty and cold. I want to gnaw at the hand of inspiration and spew the chunks that fall off in my mouth. I want to read poetry in the women's restroom and climb as many buildings as I can. I want to pretend to jump off and make everyone suck the air in real quick and intense. I want to make out with a book and get pregnant by swallowing its ideas. I want to birth its baby book and burn it. I want to spread its ashes on my softest parts and let tomorrow swallow me. And I want to not want so goddamn much.
Yeah.
One of our literary icons in Kansas is Jason Reberg, who runs Spartan Press, who publishes these books. And so that was a version of what I wanted, and here's a version of what he wants. He wants to be buried with a maple seed planted in his ribs, so its roots will burst through his body. He wants to keep his pattern of getting busted up. He wants the tree to be big and gnarly, so we'll see his face in the bark. This next one is a true story. Bad luck clovers. I used to pick four-leaf clovers in abundance from the patch in my front yard. Quickly, though, it seemed that for every clover plucked, something else had to die. I lost friends, family, pets, everything that came into my care. When I made the connection, I roped the patch off with caution tape, stopped letting children play near it, stopped the gardener from mowing it all down. I haven't killed anyone since. This next poem is about Terry, who unfortunately was one of those people who died. Yeah, and she didn't die yet. I wrote this poem and she wasn't dead. It's, but now she's dead. We laugh because it's okay. She's got a dark sense of humor. So Weekends is an at-home healthcare worker, or Terry might be dead. Last night, Terry was acting strangely, telling me thank you, I love you, oh, and see you in the AM, but if I don't, it's because I took off like a big bird. This morning I was making coffee in her kitchen when I thought I heard her shout, as loud as an old lady can shout, "Open the damn door!" But when I went to check on her, she was asleep. Or at least it's how it appeared. Terry might be dead. So when Terry wasn't dead, I decided that that was my opportunity to ask her a lot of questions about her life. Very interesting woman. So, Dwight Eisenhower is from Kansas, and a lot of people really liked him as president, and so we have a lot of Dwight Eisenhower things. So Terry was a child when Eisenhower was president, and she really liked him. So Terry likes Ike. Well, there was God, my mom, and Eisenhower. I figured he was my daddy's boss. Nobody else mattered. Switching the pace again, we are moving to Salina fucking Kansas, where nobody plans to go, but ends up getting stuck there anyway. It's right off of I-70 and I-35, so it's really located well, but it's a shitty place. Beautiful, lots of arts, really great arts, just really shitty other things. So this is a poem about Salina fucking Kansas. Ad Astra, books and coffee. 8 years ago, I took my first pregnancy test. In this bathroom, after hours, when I dated the ex-con coffee hop. He's in Nashville now, but I'm still here. The air freshener still smells the same. The hot water still doesn't work. The lock's still busted, and I still have yet to get pregnant. Growing up is fucking weird, guys. I'm sure you all feel that too. I try to write a poem for myself on my birthday every year. I'm 27, and this next poem I wrote for my 24th birthday. Yesterday, I felt 16 again. Light, optimistic, perky, supple. Today though, well today I feel old. Like a 7-year-old Walmart shoe, scuffed and threadbare. Today, my feet ache, I'm plump and dehydrated. I drank the rest of a warm beer left out after last night's dinner, out of a sense of obligation and my growing alcoholism. Today, I feel so old, I might as well be 30. Sorry. So I love New Orleans. I love New Orleans so much. I love it so much. So of course, whenever I'm down here, I write a lot of poems about New Orleans. So the next couple are some New Orleans poems for you, because I couldn't help it. I first came to New Orleans in 2018, right as I was finishing my undergrad. And right after that, most of my dreams were about New Orleans. And so this is about one of those standout dreams. It's called Worship. Her man moves differently in New Orleans, speaks differently in New Orleans, loves differently in New Orleans. When her man worships in New Orleans, he drops to his knees before her. He drops to his knees as if she were the blessed incarnation of Congo Square's Mahalia Jackson. He drops to his knees in respect to all who built his woman strong. Head bowed, aged palms extended, he presses his warmth into her patinaed curves. Her man gives her shape in New Orleans. Her man gives her shape in New Orleans. This one I wrote on April 17th of this year at 5:17 in the morning. I dreamt of the city and its people, of all the wonderful things I could do with them. Awakened by a second line, I lay on the couch, smiling as it passes. I almost forgot I was still here. With only minutes left before I leave city limits, I walk out the front door to take it all in one more time. It's just me out here on the corner of North Rampart and St. Ferdinand. Me and that cat. Everyone else is going to bed or still sleeping the weekend off. Me and the magnolias. Fishermen casting their first line into twilight on Lake Pontchartrain. Me and that sweet jasmine air. Lovers somewhere about to make love for the last time. Me and New Orleans.
Yeah.
off for you, I have a lot of little shorty poems that I didn't think held their weight quite as full poems, but that I thought were still nice to include. So, pay attention. Because they're going to go quickly. Sugar ants, don't bite me, only sweat here. If you don't know, Kath Riley is a graphite artist, a pencil drawer. So, at Kath Riley's funeral, the sky looked like one big smudge. Everyone's tracks are visible if they're going out at all. Nobody murders on a snow day. You probably don't get those, do you? Do you know what snow is? You know that frozen ice stuff that falls from the sky sometimes? My softest parts are crushed pink velvet, tickled by your touch, and ready to hold your warmth between their layers. Someday, these poems will be in a book. And I wonder what anyone else got out of this flight. I want to leave a little energy everywhere I go. Haunt every place I've spent a little life. Thank you, Anna. Thanks.
Have a
Hey, thanks.
Now we'll kill some time while the next feature is there, right? So give it up for Linzi Garcia again. Isn't that lovely? It's good to have good things like that. Yeah, isn't it? I think so. How are we doing? Hot, huh? Yeah.
It's subsiding. It's
That's
subsiding.
it.
Yeah,
It
it's
is.
subsiding.
It feels
It
better.
is subsiding. That's getting nice.
Like to make an entrance.
There you go. All right. Sean Munro is a poet, filmmaker, poetics enthusiast, and an associate professor of English at Delgado Community College in New Orleans.
Yeah, you're right.
He hosts a weekly poetry radio show, Lunch Poems, helps organize the New Orleans Poetry Festival, co-curates the Splice Poetry Series, and manages LitWire, a literary events calendar of New Orleans. Now I know this about Sean, is he runs an incredibly worthwhile poetry series. He is generous with Coors Lights, and one of the friendliest motherfuckers you will ever randomly run into on the street. Sean!
That's not a Coors Light. Bill, would you do me a favor and pass out some Coors Lights back there? I need a fresh one up here as well. They're ice cold, they're the coldest beer you can find. I can use one back there. 24 I started with?
Oh,
There's
wow.
probably 12 left. Don't need some cold beers?
Yes, start at the top.
Hey, you're right. Get some cold beers around here.
You get paid to promote?
I wish I got paid to promote Coors Light.
Anybody else?
I wish. You put in the intro, I had to work it out. Everybody's thirsty. Everybody's thirsty. Hit it, hit it. That's the line of the third poem. Yeah. We'll raise this up a little bit. There it is. Thank you all for coming tonight, bearing to the heat and the meat. Hopefully y'all got a good Coors Light in you out there. I see Bo sipping one, changing his koozie back there like a baby in a diaper.
How wholesome.
All right. I've got 3 poems tonight. 1 short, 1 medium, 1 long. It's 18 minutes and 53 seconds. I'll wait till she comes out, because the bathroom line's on the 3rd poem. External dialogue number 1. Okay, Sean, listen. These poems can't be about you, the individual. That idealism Jimmy's nada from the Poetry Cartel. People don't beget ideas, society constructs people. Circular, you say? Homology, I might say. Are you an organ donor? Think about the question. Why even write poems? It's not theoretical. Are you old enough to shave? Materialism, comrade, not the material girl kind, nor Hobbes, maybe Epicurus. Okay, these roads are icy. Listen, claim Weingarten writes in the poetry industrial complex. If you forge a poetic, you and your reps are liable for and subject to misinterpretations. Here it is, Sean. Look, this is real. I mean this. Do you understand why you shave? And are you willing to compose a poetic that senses and seizes foundational structures for action? Pours light on these fingers, stick the pages together. Scenes from the Kleptocene. Plunge! The Dow dives, the Nasdaq needles, a short seller leaps onto its balcony to sip champagne as human pensions plunge. Post-plunge. We're hiring, no one wants to work, we're hiring, minimum, maxed out. Plunge! Labor is laid off temporarily. Politicians paid off just one more time. Corporations bailed out just one more time. One more cash infusion. Taxes slashed temporarily. Plunge! Stay home, work from home, eat from home, don't buy, don't go, don't stay, don't work, don't play, don't fly, don't buy, don't loot, don't burn, don't buy toilet paper. Stop buying fucking toilet paper. Okay. You can have a little toilet paper. Post-plunge. Pfizer earned $1 gazillion this quarter. Dicks out for Johnson & Johnson's newest billionaire. Headline, dildillionaires find tax loophole and penetrate the market. Plunge! Non-payment of student loans has crashed the economy. Non-payment of mortgages has crashed the economy. Non-payment of auto loans has crashed the economy. Non-payment of Paycheck Protection Program loans has worked out okay. Mission accomplished. Post-plunge. Student loan interest will be added to your tab. Paycheck protection loans will be forgiven. Your vehicle will be repossessed. Take the bus wage. Plunge. Halt! Plunge protection team activated. Plunge! Halt! Stop gap, start gap, short gap, mid gap, large cap. Plunge. Halt! Surge! Halt! Plunge protection team, turn off the circuit breakers. Plunge! Halt! Surge! Circuit breaker berserkers, turn it off now. Shut it down now. Remove the buy button. Options. Call, put it down on paper. The tape. Halt! Surge averted. Plunge! Moonshot? Post-plunge, slingshot. Plunge! Crew to coup, market shockwaves, house of dominoes, cards, dice, and the plunger states of America. Soft coup, plunge that spoon into a soup can. Post-plunge. Shelter loves money, money loves shelter. Tammy tongue dumpers, foreign bank account, tighter than the hamstrings of a pig holding a guitar. Plunge. Shebang! Harambe's dead. Dicks out for Guatemala. Plunge out para Gran Colombia. Off planet there is no north for the popcorn petrodollar. Post-plunge. The overdraft. The underdraft. The micromillisecond millidollar craft. Algorithms. Tap dance in the trap house. Plunge! Flash grass, smash grab, glass, steel, craft, blast from the past, legislate, 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 too late, red graph, melted candle, red candle, green candle, red candle, red candle, Dorito of doom, market angles, math dangle, derivatives, 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 $632 trillion, yes, $632 trillion post-plunge. Why are you staring at the debt ceiling? Why are you staring at the debt ceiling? Debt dealing money healers charge a fee, fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the cum of the central bank in our collective imagination. Regulate, 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 it'll work this time, baby! Plunge, no more hot tamales, no more Nintendo, no more Taco Bell, no more Mormon hedge funds. What will we do, what will we do, what will we do, what will we do? Post-plunge. Anyone caught selling derivatives will receive capital punishment. Anyone caught buying options, calls, or puts will receive capital punishment. Anyone caught laundering money offshore will receive capital punishment. Anyone caught making a market that doesn't deal in tangible assets will receive corporal punishment. Plunge! Catch, caught, catch, cat bag, out of, onto, hold bags, bag holder, crypto derivatives, digital real estate, Coinbase, FTX, Binance, oops, crypto is a scam, oops, crypto is banking, oops, don't, correlate, 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 too late, this goddamn big car is wrecked. Post-plunge. Poetry readings, backyard gardens, buying a drink for your friend, growing weed to smoke, playing guitar, sitting in a yard, sweating lightly, your friend sneezes and accidentally farts, and you laugh. There it is. All right. Thank all y'all New Orleans poets for coming tonight. This one is 100% for you. All of us. New Orleans poet. I want to be that New Orleans poet with gray hair. I want to be that New Orleans poet with a cool pool. I want to be that New Orleans poet that has never eaten yakamain. I want to be that New Orleans poet who receives a major poetry award, but is a terrible reader. I want to be that New Orleans poet who's a goddamn clown. I want to be that New Orleans poet that used to want to be a New Orleans rapper. I want to be that New Orleans poet who forgets your name every time you meet them. I want to be that New Orleans poet with a PhD from Harvard who only comes back to sell books. I want to be that New Orleans poet who dies drunk on a bar bench, fully euthanized. I want to be that New Orleans poet that makes everyone's eyes roll when they step up to the open mic. I want to be that New Orleans poet who is announced as the poet laureate of New Orleans over an airport intercom. I want to be that New Orleans poet who came here for an MFA and never left. I want to be that New Orleans poet who uses a Yad accent in their poems but don't talk when none darling. I want to be that New Orleans poet who wears a signature hat. I want to be that New Orleans poet who doesn't know how to adjust the microphone stand. I want to be that New Orleans poet who left for an MFA program and came right the fuck back to New Orleans. I want to be that New Orleans poet diagnosed with a mental health disorder who never writes about it. I want to be that New Orleans poet on Frenchman Street typing poems for money on a typewriter who's never been to a local poetry reading. I want to be that New Orleans poet who writes New Orleans poems but doesn't have an answer to the question, where'd you go to high school? I want to be that New Orleans poet that you see walking down the street and say, hey, there's that New Orleans poet. I want to be that New Orleans poet who publishes poems only on stickers and urinal troughs. I want to be that New Orleans poet that writes, lives in New Orleans in their bio, but was only here for 6 months. I want to be that New Orleans poet who is tripping balls on mushrooms right now, but no one ever notices. I want to be that New Orleans poet and a poetry power couple. I want to be that New Orleans poet who runs reading series, presses journals, and shows the fuck up. I want to be that New Orleans poet who should be ejected from the New Orleans poetry scene, but this system doesn't work like that, nor should it.
Yes.
I want to be that New Orleans poet who ate a weed gummy 45 minutes ago and is peeking. I want to be that New Orleans poet with tattoos. I want to be that New Orleans poet without tattoos. I want to be that New Orleans poet who becomes visibly angry when people say they don't like poetry. I want to be that New Orleans poet without any pets in their poems. I want to be that New Orleans poet who became a plumber because they hated teaching. I want to be that New Orleans poet who didn't wake up Christmas morning because they bought a pain pill laced with fentanyl. I want to be that New Orleans poet whose partner was a deceased New Orleans poet. I want to be that New Orleans poet who can fillet a trout but won't ride a bike because it's too dangerous. I want to be that New Orleans poet who quit writing poems. I want to be that New Orleans poet who can't quit writing poems. I want to be a New Orleans poet who's never been a featured reader. I want to be a New Orleans poet who fucking hates New Orleans but will never leave. I want to be that New Orleans poet who refuses to write about hurricanes. I want to be that New Orleans poet who is sober. I want to be that New Orleans poet that is uncomfortably drunk. I want to be that New Orleans poet who never publishes a book. I want to be that New Orleans poet who wins the Pulitzer Prize and during their acceptance speech never once mentions New Orleans. I want to be that New Orleans poet who used to be a sex worker on Tulane Avenue. I want to be that New Orleans poet who has 6 toes on one foot and will show it to you if you buy them a drink. I want to be that New Orleans poet who hates Patricia Smith because she wrote a better book about Katrina than they could. I want to be that New Orleans poet who types a poem on a typewriter and calls it Vizpo. I want to be that New Orleans poet who says, fuck them students during Jazz Fest. I want to be that New Orleans poet with a heroin addiction. I want to be that New Orleans poet who never wears deodorant. I want to be that New Orleans poet who plays in a mediocre band. I want to be that New Orleans poet who runs an excellent open mic. I want to be that New Orleans poet who is intellectually aroused by the thought of canceling someone on Twitter. I want to be that New Orleans poet who is not a boomer but still doesn't have Instagram. I want to be that queer New Orleans poet that does not mention their sexual identity in their bio. I want to be that New Orleans poet that gatekeeps New Orleans. I want to be that New Orleans poet that opens the gates to New Orleans, but not the floodgates. I want to be that New Orleans poet who is not impressed someone wrote a sestina. I want to be that poet. I want to be that New Orleans poet who used the N-word in a poem and won a prize. I want to be that New Orleans poet who gives great head. I want to be that New Orleans poet who is stuck adjuncting for 10 years. I want to be that New Orleans poet that has never graduated high school. I want to be that New Orleans poet who performs at Johnny V at the Maple Leaf on Thursdays. I want to be that New Orleans poet who writes poet in all caps on their business card. I want to be that New Orleans poet who's much older than they look. I want to be that New Orleans poet who's never been to Words and Music, Tennessee Williams, or New Orleans Poetry Festival. I want to be that New Orleans poet that volunteers at all the literary festivals. I want to be that New Orleans poet that books themselves in the lineup every time they're asked to organize a reading. I want to be that New Orleans poet who dreams of improvising over a jazz band. I want to be that New Orleans poet who writes hoodoo spells instead of poems. I want to be that New Orleans poet you can buy a t-shirt from. I want to be that New Orleans poet who will correct the grammar in this poem after the reading. I want to be that New Orleans poet who identifies as a street poet because it's better than getting a job. I want to be that New Orleans poet whose poems taste like boudin from New Iberia. I want to be that New Orleans poet who speaks in haiku yet no one has caught on. I want to be that New Orleans poet that eats acid on Mardi Gras and hopes a poem will convey the experience accurately. I want to be that New Orleans poet that eats ass. I want to be that New Orleans poet that is a failure. I want to be that New Orleans poet whose parents dislike their choice to be a New Orleans poet. I want to be that New Orleans poet that's a spoken word poet. I want to be that New Orleans poet that thinks the scene is a little too racially segregated. I want to be that New Orleans foodie poet with a Leidenheimer loaf shoved up their Hubig's pie. I want to be that New Orleans poet that's a democratic socialist but not in their poems. I want to be that New Orleans poet who's an erotic surrealist lost in a burning basement. I want to be that New Orleans poet who writes about the nightmare in the newspaper. I want to be that New Orleans poet who believes Christianity is a legitimate religion. I want to be that New Orleans poet who takes visitors on a ghost tour in the quarter. I want to be that New Orleans poet that says French quarters with an S. I want to be that New Orleans flaneur poet who is too drunk to walk. I want to be that New Orleans poet that knows which ward they live in. I want to be that New Orleans poet whose application for being a local was approved on the 2nd floor of the Phoenix. I want to be that New Orleans poet who doesn't know there's a swinger club on Gravier Street called Colette's. I want to be that New Orleans poet who has to pee in the middle of a poetry reading and isn't afraid to do so. I want to be that New Orleans poet that asks the crowd not to clap between poems. I want to be that New Orleans poet who has given up trying to figure out how to adjust that fucking mic stand. I want to be that New Orleans poet who talks about their poems too much before reading them. I want to be that New Orleans poet that only reads from their phone. I want to be that New Orleans poet who smells like magnolia flowers but farts like a dump truck. I want to be that New Orleans poet who began going to bars at 14 years old. I want to be that New Orleans poet whose home insurance was raised 280% this year. I want to be that New Orleans poet that knows the city has an expiration date. I want to be that New Orleans poet whose name you can't remember. I want to be that New Orleans poet that reads long anaphoras at New Orleans poetry readings. I want to be that New Orleans poet who wears loud shirts during performances. I want to be that New Orleans poet that claps by snap. I want to be that New Orleans poet that wears black turtlenecks. I want to be that New Orleans poet that reads poems on OnlyFans. I want to be that New Orleans poet who hosts a reading at a cinder block building with no AC in July. I want to be that New Orleans poet who laughs at the perfect business card and gets it taken away. I want to be that New Orleans poet who's really just a poor drunk white person from Alabama. I want to be that New Orleans poet who doesn't know how to have fun. I want to be that New Orleans poet who hisses like the snake they are. I want to be that New Orleans poet that's coming for you, bitch. I want to be that New Orleans poet who's a hot mess on a cool night. I want to be that New Orleans poet that's been moved to tears by a poem at least once. I want to be that New Orleans poet with no DUIs on their driving record. I want to be that New Orleans poet who works for Morris Bart. I want to be that New Orleans poet who rants on the street corner for free. I want to be that New Orleans poet that cannot figure out how to speak into a microphone. I want to be that New Orleans poet that asks if you can hear them more than once. I want to be that New Orleans poet who writes poems that make people intellectually horny. I want to be that New Orleans poet who says, "How's your mama?" in them, unironically. I want to be that New Orleans poet that uses public transportation. I want to be that New Orleans poet who is bored by gunshots in their neighborhood. I want to be that New Orleans poet who's a swamp witch. I want to be that New Orleans poet that's never heard of the Meters but thinks they funky. I want to be that New Orleans poet who is running for fucking mayor. I want to be that New Orleans poet that doesn't own a handgun. I want to be that New Orleans poet who writes in the cemetery. I want to be that New Orleans poet that doesn't live in the bywater of Marigny. I want to be that New Orleans poet who has seen an alligator swimming in Bayou St. John. I want to be that New Orleans poet. 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 I want to be these New Orleans poets, and I am. Because all of you are part of me, and I am a part of you. And I fucking love it, and I hope you do too. Thank you very much.
So there you go. You had 20 odd people figuring out which one that they were. And more important than that, they were figuring out who their fucking poet friends were. Too. Now, you know, normally this is such a wonderful part of the evening. We roll right into the open mic. Tonight, you're gonna be one of them. So figure out exactly which open mic reader that you are for that New Orleans poet, but give it up for Sean. What a way to go right into summertime.
Yeah.
First up, open mic people. Let's give them some love. It's not easy being up here. Sometimes it's just as hard as being out there. So first up, 3 to 5 minutes, Mr. Gary Rosenblatt is coming up for us. Where are you at, Gary? Come on, baby. Come on, brother.
Gotta follow this guy.
Good luck. At least you're a New Orleans poet.
Yes.
Maybe.
I'm an Arabi poet, man. Yeah. I wish I was an Arabi poet. All right, I'm gonna do the first poem that I opened up to. I don't need this, do I? I moved here in 2007, about a year and 4 months after Katrina. And I was down on Canal Street, and there was an older man on a bicycle. And he had no tires and no tubes on the bike. And I was drawn to the sound that he was making on Canal Street. So this is called Steel Wheels Make a Sound on Solid Ground. Steel wheels steel themselves on solid asphalt, making a sound that grass could halt, ringing true throughout the city, slow-moving, gritty. Old black man without a cent for rubber and tube, pedals on, nude in his disposition, loud in his defiant description, acknowledging his condition for all in this mortal play, this reverie. On and on he goes, unobsessed with money, just trying to get from A to Z. Gracefully he moves, ones and twos, up and down and around, the gears and wheels revolve. His old muscles tighten and loosen with time. As he drives through this city of crime, the grind of the money makers in their financial institutions, not in time with his own steady revolutions. Erratic, they at peace, erratic they, at peace he, sweat rolls freely off his brow, as the clatter of metal on stone makes few turn, pause in their agony moan of their day-to-day groan display, and here he hands them a lesson on a tray, but they are too busy to pay heed. Greed empowers their need. He, the teacher, they, the feeders below, cannot even grasp the meaning. Through their go, 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 he, the steel wheel shaman, pedals on, unaware of the beauty in his possession. So that's it.
Yeah.
Took me years to think back on that piece. I figured I'm going to pull up what comes to me when I, Okay. I wrote this, I don't know if it was a conscious choice or not. It was Pride, Pride Month we're in. So, and the flag, this flag doesn't bleed, the American flag, so I wrote something about the rainbow flag. So, rainbow pigments do bleed in a phantasma of ornamental, accidental, emotional, and purposeful prose. Thrown at us some since birth, others at a later awakening, quaking the crust of the skin's earth. Our warmth, our worth, comes tumbling open, breathing a long-held sigh, transformative, lies to the core, reforming this template. This being, this infant gasping for air, lungs full, a queer feeling, sudden pain at the rush of oxygenated cells, never this full till now, a bow to the ancestors, who've laid a path in grass on hilltops and mountains, in rivers and streams and oceans, byways and means. Indescribable, these are the heroes of this life, not the bozos and the muskets, but the bellowers of truth, and the tusk bearers, the wearers of scarlet, rouge, and umber, who, in their hearts, felt the thunder upon escaping the shackles held in place by a hateful, frightened race, humans washed of brain, displaced by a society sworn to words and books, dictates of religion, the downfall of rights, contents of life, controllers of life, where public displays of affection and sex are viewed as a blight, the wrong in their pure white song. What is purity? Shedding that skin to win the war on self and rise up like a god in one's own right, not a god of judgment, of omnipotence, but a god of freedom to reign over one's own path, freely to unite with others of true spirit, built not on fear but of love, not from above but within. And if that is a sin, let us all be sinners, winners in this fight for oxygen. Let us breathe. I bequeath this to you. This is my will. Sister, lie with your sister. Brother, lie with your brother. Being, lie with your being. Let love be the ease. Cease this worried brow. Plow new fields for the ones that have gone fallow, lest our love hang upon the gallows for time. One more? You got?
Yeah, if you got a short one, go ahead, man.
Okay. I got this one. I'm dope for dopamine. My caboose is loose. Come on in. That's a short one.
There you go.
Speak your mind.
Someone who delivers. That's right.
How you feel?
That's awesome. Next up, see how lucky we are? The honorary best audience member, most wonderful, most consistent open mic human being in New Orleans, that type of New Orleans poet, Mr. Mark, folks. Come on.
So hard to follow his amazing readers. And Sean, one thing that the gold mine never had was a podium you could put your beer on and not have it fall off.
Yeah, that's right.
I just feel inspired to say that Atchison fucking Kansas is the perfect place to be sipping Gold Coke and eating hot dog barbecue weenies at your Mormon niece's wedding reception.
That's right.
And the North Fork is what vineyards would look like if they were planted in Kansas. All right, snow. Yes, I've been there. This is called snowshoeing on the Red River of the North. You know where the Red River of the South is? It goes up to Alexandria. There's a Red River of the North that flows up to the Hudson Bay. What brought a boy from Bayou St. John to the frigid edge of the Red River of the North on a sunny, windless, 10-degree day in February to strap on bentwood and gut beaver-tail snowshoes and crunch contentedly into the crisp snow? There was a single tree on an isolated spit of land behind the adjacent subdivision where only I went. It was a broad, round place connected to the city only by a narrow, Coors Light, strip of land, and so left bare, except for that tree. I never thought to learn genus or species. As a child, I lived much in nature, but had no outdoorsy or gardening mad elders to teach me the Adamic approach to the world. I treasured this tree for its isolation and my own determination to reach it on every trip down the Riverside Park, the snow unbroken by the cross-country skiers on their polished loip. Up from the bottoms, crabwise, my massive Eskimo clown shoes, then break fresh trail off across the perfect sheet of isolated virgin snow to march once around and stop. To remove my outer glove and put my thin-clad hand against its sculpted bark, which matches the sastrugi the wind carved around it. I would stand there, seeking a tactile or electrical connection to the thin sheath of life between bark and heartwood. Sloan, cambrium, sapwood, words I just learned to write this poem, but always understood to be the plumbing between green grass and green leaves overhead. With my back to the city, I looked out across this companionless spot, the trees beyond, the bottomland with its people trail invisible, and across the red, the primitive park across it. I thought then of birchwood canoes and pelts, of coonskin's caps crossing into vistas beyond the ordinary, into the wide open spaces that drew Scandinavia's suns to this fertile but frigid place.
Yeah.
I did something that made me think about Fargo, so I went and found very old poems from when I lived in Fargo. This is called Roundup Ready. I never learned to roll holiday tamales at the community college from the middle-aged daughter of the last man to hoe a row of beets in Minnesota. I watched instead the last of the biplane daredevils, just under the wires for the fun of it, and then the cloud of Roundup. The cocktail aroma, sickly sweet, something like honey and naphtha. I roll up the window, punch recirculate, and light a smoke as the pilot comes around again. I take my coffee black, but put the match to the absinthe-soaked cube, watch the metastasizing flame, and take my chances. amount of time?
Yeah.
This is old. I wrote this like 20-something years ago, but I wrote it on my deck in Fargo, North Dakota. And I had an apple tree that was so prolific with sharp baking apples that no one I knew would eat. I would eat as many as I could. I had to buy bushels, you know those things, and literally put them out on the street in front of my house, hoping people would take them. Lilacs at the last. Lilacs at the last smell like death. A slight savor of decay haunts the brown blossoms. The taint of fruity rottenness foretells the coming of summer. The apple blossoms blow away. Summer will burnish the fruit till thunderstorms knock it down. Tipsy wasps totter in August's fallen apples. Bury me in that warm country. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. There we go. Now, can the night get any better? The answer is yes, it can. Next up, Bill. Where are you at? Man, come on up. He's got his phone, so you know what type of New Orleans poet he is.
Right. I feel so old, I could be 30. So I've been writing this poem of infinite length that's based on this abominable text written by St. Augustine in 410 called The City of God. And I read it and then I kind of juxtapose it with current events and shit like that. And I'm just going to read a couple of things. Trying to see if anything esoteric comes up in here, but that doesn't matter anyway. So Monday, February 28th, 2022. Today we are prepping carnitas for Fat Tuesday. Anyone who wants to, please stop by. Then, on Ash Wednesday, we always go vegetarian. Well, maybe a little fish. It feels healthy, this leftover ritual. Next week, it's back to work installing solar panels, though some customers have elected to postpone installation given current price volatility and supply chain interruptions. They don't have any titles or anything, they just go on and on and on. Pluginus comments rather wryly that man-woman got lucky when God made it mortal, unlike the demons who remain saddled with bodies, however transparent, eternally. Apuleius, on the other hand, contends we turn into demons ourselves when that immortal part of us lifts into the aether. Lares if they are good, lemurs or larvae if they are bad, and manes if it is uncertain. These are all weird little household gods from the Greek. These gods rise from the cooling corpse to become next-gen intercessors. But perhaps the most convincing arguments for the immortality of the soul are put forth by my friends Annie and Danny, as well as my brother Jerry and my sister Faye, all of whom passed from this mortal coil some time ago, yet continue to post status on Facebook. Somebody's ringing my doorbell.
Mine too.
Go answer it.
this is a quote, "It is a great question among men whether man can be mortal and blessed," end quote. And perhaps the ladies too ask this question as they board the last trains out of Kyiv, leaving their men behind to intercede with Putin's tanks. For Zaporizhia has fallen, and while the in-game hackers have darkened a few screens, the queue of souls upbound from the fields is approaching the interminable. The city of God is to the city of man, Augustine, master of analogy, points out, as the Kharkiv of a week ago is to the Kharkiv this morning. Perfect apartments and avenues versus piles of smoking rubble, commuters who rode the subways versus living there. And since neither Biden nor Macron proved up to the task of mediation, it falls to Christ to intervene and welcome the flood of refugees across the border to their new life of eternal bliss. I was going to try to end on a hilarious note, but it's not looking like that's going to happen. Another quote, "Philosophers have wasted their strength and expended their leisure pursuing happiness in whatever language, but the cult of the colony will supersede agriculture and cross an unfathomable sea, from mayonnaise to QAnon, latreia to latrine, your worship on shipboard piously praying each matins for safe passage of cargo and crew, indistinguishable but for skin tone. Though a sly slip of the tongue, you are becoming my. Starts the slaves worshiping the God that enslaved them, and a new world awaits, strikingly similar to the old one." I'll stop there.
Now here we go, driving it home. 2 more left to take us off into our evening. Mr. Rodrigo Toscano, come on up.
Yeah.
Give him a huge hand. There we go.
I went to the Orphic effect here in the cave, voice that echoes. I guess the last intense summer we had of the pandemic was 21 or 22, I can't remember. This one is called Endless Summer Nola. The unpaired, or paired, or semi-paired, or multiply paired people in pestilence. She willed herself into a crush, self-gathering crush. Totality makes purpose. By and by, good tidings. By and by, the rough passage. Sick of the city and praising it. Fatigued by the country, frothing it up. He, what did he do? What he was he? How hardy a he hereabouts, howling. Pinging magnolia, pinging hydrangea, the preferred pewter flower rings. Random rain again, blink ye twice. Random rain again, blink ye thrice. Boats and planes, cars and trains, forehead on forehead, booty to booty. She, what did she do? What she was she, how hardy is she hereabouts, howling? Singing is elsewhere. Dancing is elsewhere. the verified Maminal's hereabouts. They willed themselves out of frolicking. They willed themselves into frolicking. This splish, splash, puddle ocean, shimmery, glowy, red new sun. Oh, crush that never cometh. Oh, the crush that suffocated. He became an ignorant gardener. She became a questionable baker. They saw the lights funk out all at once. They flashed up. Purpose was waiting on the corner. The corner came into question. By and by, wild prophecies. By and by, drink cups, cuddling. Again, the paired, unpaired, semi-paired, multiply paired, and pestilence. Yeah. So this one is sometimes no, I'm just gonna do it. This one's called Happy Campus. This is the dirt-eating poetics that's got you. The dirt-eating poetics you've been yearning for. You did good. You did something you hadn't before. Contorted yourself into optimal spaces. You persisted with your dirt-seeking impulses. When the garden trail came to a sudden dead end, you celebrated by dreaming as a log might, calling forth decomposition's cute sister, life. A single crushed can of rosé strewn thereabouts is all you, too, at maximum inflection point. But here you are, back at the plazas of commerce, into the routines of knowledge dispensation. Here, too, you contort yourself to what's most pressing, these happy or grim faces of late empires throng. You do a sort of bump dance. The tension glides up. At noon, the plazas clear themselves of their contents. Overhead, a Boeing 737 roars for curious ears. Streaks of places to be fade to the next industrial jolt wakens you. Time for a quickie jaunt among ferns, spongy soil. This is the dirt lavishing poetics at hand. A flexed forearm gripping a bulky bulk at dusk gives way to dalliance with penciled sprites at dawn. A picnic in the style of 2022, keen to supply lines of microchips and maidens. Fuel is what's on tap today, sparking up forms, combustions, pipelines, canalizations of fire, how the plazas themselves are poetical feats. You can deem yourself a fallen log at midnight, or rally the concrete under your feet to flight. Yeah.
Now, here we go. To close it all out for the entire summertime. Make her feel loved. Maybe Michelle. That's how she wrote it on the baby next to her. So she decided to come on up. Come on, Michelle. Come on, baby girl. Get up here.
I'm definitely coming up here, but I am the poet that does not know how to adjust the mic. So I don't know if I'm gonna.
Perfect.
Perfect. There you go.
Okay.
Well done.
So this is Michelle Little Meech, is AKA is like my nickname. I'm writing about the Lighthouse, and this is Little Meech on the spot. Okay. So all about the Lighthouse tonight. The drive-by. 2:30 drive-by. The Lighthouse. Is it open? Is it closed? Not sure. The neon light's not on. Don't see anybody. Looks really dark. Drive back home. Come back at 4:30. Neon lights still not on. Go back home. To mindless series. In the bed, watching your TV, waiting for the 7 o'clock poetry at the Lighthouse. At the Lighthouse. Walk in. Unplugged light. Neon light unplugged. Need to keep the neon sign on so I know when you're open. I needed an album at 2:30, but you weren't open, so I thought. Sit down on the ground, look around, chairs everywhere, none that I want to sit in. Meet some really cool guy, Mark. Mark says, these are such uncomfortable chairs over there. I sit here. He says, it's hot. This dress girl comes by and says, I only wear dresses in the summer. I say, never wear jeans. Comfort, be cute, comfy, not, oh, losing it. I say, why be cute when you could be comfy? I'm losing it, guys. No jeans in the summer, I say. No jeans in the summer. But the dress girl says, only dresses in the summer. I say, okay, what's your name? She says, Linzi. The other girl, her friend, so I think she's just a friend, says Megan. I said, Megan, you're the opening act. I saw you on the board. Little did I think she was the opening act. I'm thinking this is just a friend of the cool girl with the dress. Anyway, no jeans in the summer, unless you're going to a basketball game. That's my favorite. Or hockey. Okay, so I'm going to move on from there. Alright, we got to turn the page. Okay, this is on the spot, okay? Lost in thought, really, in creative thought. Sitting there, everyone's talking, doing their creative thing, and I'm trying to write my on the spot. Not Johnny on the spot, Little Meech on the spot. Trying to figure it out. But all I keep hearing in the background, that's all I keep hearing is Wet Willie. Don't know what that story was about, but I heard Wet Willie quite a bit. Lost in my thought, Wet Willie was a big part of my night. I think, I want to sign up for this. I want to talk about this. I want to tell everybody. Nah, never mind. Everybody says, no, go do it, go sign up. Oh, and the master over there says, you could just say Mary had a little lamb, we'd be okay with that. I'm like, no, I'm going to try this. Okay. At last, I go sit back down. That guy, Mark, says, let's go see if there's breeze outside. Breeze? There's definitely a breeze. There's been a breeze all day. Let's go. We go outside to the breeze, and there I meet the cool guy with the cool shirt talking about hot Cheetos, marshmallows, and I forgot what the other thing he was talking about. But, oh yeah, hot Cheetos, marshmallows, and then there was kayaking going on. Kayaking talk. Take me on a kayak ride, would you? Please. Then I look over and start talking to my threesome. Allie, the painter. Rob, he passes by. Allie says, he's a photographer. Then there's Dre, my threesome. My new journey they will be in, I think. Then there's the waiting and the anticipation of when is my turn, because I don't think I can do this. The fear, the anticipation. I go up, I see the guy with the pad and the list. He says, is this you? I said, yes. I'm not sure I'm going to do this. And he says, just do it. I'm Donald. I'm Michelle. He says, do you want me to call you Michelle? What is this, Landry? No, just Michelle. I'm just Michelle. Anyway, I didn't know, Mark, you were a poet when I was talking to you. But thank you for all of your poetry that you gave us and meeting me. You were the first person that I spoke to. I am Little Meech, poetry on the spot. I am also a widow of relationship, death to one and life to another.
Give everyone one more. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Enjoy your summer, please. Thank you for supporting us at Twisted River Poetry Series. Come back September, October, whatever it's going to be. Look at LitWire. It'll always be up on there. Thank you. Go out, fall in love, break up, do what you have to do.